Okay, so what we're going to look at here is some of the VLAN connectivity that goes on. Again, this is, I think if you look at the book, this is the infrastructure that he uses. So what we're going to do in VLANs is verify the VLAN database. We do that with the show VLAN command. Verify the MAC cable, the content address, the CAM table. Mine's not going to have anything in it initially because there's no traffic. The one he shows in the book, there's obviously been a lot of traffic on that. The simulator doesn't do all the broadcast traffic that Windows will do. You're always going to have Windows addresses in a real MAC table, CAM table. Verify your port assignments and the show interfaces, interface switch port. We'll look at those things, and then switch port access to assign it to a VLAN. So this is the commands that are going to be used in this thing. So VLAN database, verify. What I want to do is to, these are the trunk troubleshooting. What I want to do here is to go back to packet tracer. Okay, look at this is the infrastructure that he uses in the book for the VLAN, and I think I've got it set up the way that he does. The first thing he said was to show the VLAN database, right? And if we just show VLAN, it tells us that we have a VLAN 10 with sales, and that's actually Fast Ethernet 01 and 02. That's the one that these two guys are connected to. So let's see what we can ping, just for grins and giggles here. This one hopefully will be quicker than the other ones. Ping 192.168.10.1. Let's see if it can ping itself. It can. And 2 is right next to it. 10.2, it can. 10.3 is on the same network. And these are just two switches that are hooked together, so we ought to be able to do that, right? Would you like to bet good money on that one? We can't get there because we're now using VLANs. And remember, VLANs are like having physically separated networks. So, one of the things, I'm going to shortcut some of the stuff that he talks about. I'm going to go back into the show VLAN. When we show VLAN, it's going to show us our VLANs here. It's going to show us the ports that are connected to the VLAN. And notice that gigabit 01 and 02 show up here. What that tells me and is going to tell you is they're not trunk ports. And remember, to transfer VLAN information from one to the other, we have to have trunks between the two switches. We'll look at that a little bit more. Let's go to this other one. Most of the problem actually is over here, I think. And let's do a show VLAN here. And you notice that VLAN 10 is missing. Show, let's see, let's show IP interface brief. Just for the heck of it. It says that Fast Ethernet 03 is, and that's the one this guy's connected to, and he's supposed to be part of VLAN 10. If we go in here and show run, Fast Ethernet 03, switch port access VLAN 10, he's assigned to VLAN 10. He's an access port. Port fast is configured. But when we looked at the VLAN database here, show VLAN, there is no VLAN 10. The way we can fix that is, oh, am I going too fast? Okay, we got VLAN 1, which is the default. Everything by starting out is on VLAN 1. Okay? I have blind. You should have told me that was that far out of focus. But we have 20, 26, 27, 30, and all of those are over here on this one. Let's go back to this one. It's got 1, it's got 10, 20, and all that other stuff. But this one is supposed to be on VLAN 10, but when we look in the database, there is no VLAN 10. We can fix that, and what's really kind of cool is, I think once we fix that, it's going to automatically be on VLAN 10, so we go config T VLAN 10 name, and I think it was sales. And we show VLAN, and now we have 10. And you notice we now have this FA03 is on VLAN 10. So that ought to fix it for us, right? And you notice we now are up because we're on the right network. So should we now be able to ping across here? Since they're all on the same VLAN, right? The gigabyte's going to stop us because it's not a trunk port. Let's look at these things just real quick because trunk ports have so much terminology to drive you absolutely crazy.
Since the other one is a trunk port, can we send stuff back the opposite?
None of them are trunk ports. We can look at this one. Let's show VLAN, and the gigabits are here on the VLAN 1. If they show up on a VLAN, they ain't a trunk port. We can also show interface trunk, and there's nothing there. If we go over here and show interface, I spell it right, don't you? There are no trunk ports. Let's show interface gig 0/1, and I think it's switch port. It tells us switch ports enabled, administrative mode, dynamic auto. We can have dynamic, dynamic ports, but both of these are dynamic auto. When auto says if something else asks me to be a trunk port, I'll be one. But the default on these things is automatic. So we have to change something on one side or the other. I'm not going to look at the other switch because it's going to be the same thing. And it's in a native VLAN, and it tells us our encapsulation here is .1Q. This is the one you don't have a choice. It's going to be .1Q. So what we should be able to do is config T. And instead of doing these one at a time, I'm going to do interface range gig 0/1-2. You can configure more than one port at a time if you use the range instead of just doing gig 0/1 and gig 0/2. So what we want to do is what? Switch port mode trunk, and then we can do enter. Switch port mode, and we can do some other things here. Let's do some of the dynamic just for the heck of it. And in dynamic, we can do auto or desirable. It's already set for auto. If we do desirable, they're down and up and all that other good stuff. Let's get back here just quickly. Show interface trunk. And all of a sudden, we now have trunk ports. Because we made one desirable. The other was auto, and automatic, if we'd have made it a manual trunk, it would have negotiated to be a trunk port. If you connect two automatics together, they won't become a trunk. But if you make one end desirable, one side desirable, it will negotiate the trunk port for you. So we're having it. Now then, you think we should go from here to there? I hope so. Because I don't remember what else is wrong with it. Now we're all on the same one. And remember, the trunk ports here carry all the individual VLANs, all the information on the VLANs. They're tagged when they go in, and they're untagged when they come out, and the switch sends it to the proper VLAN based on the way that we assign things. Those always make sense. I kind of shortcut some of the things that he did, but you can look at all of the things. The things that you can get wrong with VLANs is the port's not assigned to it. You create the VLAN and you make the port an access port, switch port access, makes it an access port. And you go in switch port access VLAN, whatever the VLAN number is. So there's a lot of switch port and access words in there. Switch port mode access, and then switch port access. You tell it to access, and you tell which VLAN you want it to access. And the trunks are important for different switches. And what this really does allow you to do is have a lot of flexibility when you're using switches in a big network. The example that we usually use is you've got people on 3 different floors that need to be on the same VLAN. Well, you can do that with switching. Instead of trying to, oh, we're going to rearrange the whole thing, knock out 3 walls to put them all in the same location. Instead of doing that, buy some switches, create the VLANs. Be sure you do the trunk ports. Trunk ports and the port assignments, and that's the really big parts of these things. They will negotiate their own. There are some problems you can have with them because when you get into the VLAN trunking protocol, it has, when it creates things, it creates a serial number, for lack of a better word. And sometimes somebody, and whichever one has the highest serial number, and they're all servers by default, updates everything else. So sometimes people do things like, oh, my switch is down. We got an old one sitting in the closet here. Well, it may be a much higher serial number than everything else, and you plug it in, and all of a sudden your network goes down because it just updated all your switches with VLANs that don't exist. So those are kinds of things, and you need to, if you do something like that, you need to be sure that you zero the switch that you're putting in so that it doesn't take control that you don't want. And I think that's it for the troubleshooting